of a crisis, right? So where do you think I went? Yeah, the washroom, right? Now, I always say this too, because it's a fact, women have never been in men's washroom, but we guys have two options. The standing option and the sitting option, right? And I went in the sitting option, of course, locked myself in there, and I'm thinking, what's going on? I'm losing it. Water coming out of my eyes. So after a few minutes, I go to the sink, put cold water in my face, cheap paper towel, because, you know, we buy cheap paper towel, rub my face, go back in the op center, and a friend of mine, a colleague of mine says, Steph, what the hell's going on? Where were you? And he looks at me, and I'm thinking, he says, what's wrong? And I'm thinking, oh boy. You remember the feeling if you ever climbed the counter before dinner when you were a kid and you're eating a cookie and mom comes in and you got caught? I felt like that kid thinking, oh, he knows. So he says, what's wrong with you? And of course, I figured, I gotta do something here. It was the fall, Ottawa, allergy seasons, allergies. There was no way I was gonna tell a really good friend who, by the way, I had done my parachute airborne course years ago. We were like this. We were best of buddies. I actually talk about him in the book too. But there was no way at that moment I was going to tell him what truly happened. And for a long period of time, I was in that 7 to 10 zone, and I would go home at night, reconstitute myself for another day at work, right? And I would implore all of you, don't make the mistake of thinking, well, you know, that's for the military. These people go overseas, they see all sorts of bad things, and they come back. No wonder, right? Don't make the mistake of judging people who don't go to a war zone. You don't need an excuse to develop a mental health problem. You don't need a reason. If it happens, it happens. And we have to stop. We just have to be there for people, irregardless of the cause. I was interviewed by Stephane this morning. It's airing next week. And at one point he said, it must have been so hard to be in the military because of stigma and all this. I said, I disagree. It must be a lot harder to be a civilian worker in an organization, and there's no obvious reason. There's no smoking gun. It's pretty easy to be I'm not sure for you, Chris, but a veteran, because I think at some point, especially with, now the military has no sympathy, right? But for civilians, that, you know, when Chris got up, you went, oh, Chris, right? You never got that in the military, right? Of course not. But you see, now what if it was a non-veteran, right? I don't think anybody deserves an applause, not to pick on Chris, but I don't care what caused the issues or the mental health problems anybody has, right? When you're in the 7 to 10 zone, we got to address that. And so what have we done in Canada? What have we really done about this? Well, it's fair to say that if you're in a semi-large or an organization that is a certain size, you know, if you're a two-man workplace or a two-person workplace, probably not, but you probably have benefits, and you'll be able to call an EAP provider or access, you know, mental health care, unless you're this individual I met a week ago who said, I'm on a 2-year wait list, but there is, you know, medical care. And so we've got that, right? And if you've got a good benefit plan, then some of your happy pills will be covered. And I take my happy pills. I'm for happy pills. I'm not against happy pills, right? I took my happy pills this morning, and here I am today. But, you know, so this is pretty much what we've done. And by the way, for those of you who know me well, share with the rest during the mingling out there. No, Stephane is for clinical care, and he's for pharmacology, and he's for all that. But somehow there's a missing leg on that stool, isn't there, right? And I keep imploring everybody I can talk to, that's the missing part, right? When I tried to attempt or got really close to dying by suicide, I did not ever attempt in my doctor's office. That's not where people choose to die by suicide. When they die by suicide, they're in a very isolated state normally. These movies you see, the jumpers off the buildings there, I think that happens a lot more in movies than in real life, I believe, right? I don't know this, but there's something missing. And I think that is what we really need to work on.